Congratulations, you found your way to Natural AF Podcast. I'm your host, Isaac.
And I'm Alexa.
And if you're on this journey like many of us, we're coming out of the woods into a clearing and we're starting to see the world a bit more clearly now. Things are laying out in front of us. We're here doing this show, sharing with the world some of our healing journeys, some of the things that brought us out of the synthetic past into a more real, grounded future. And that's what this show is all about. Everything from natural health, holistic healing methods or modalities, and psychology, anything to do with the mind, body, spirit integration and really living our best lives unencumbered by a lot of the programming and outside limitations that we've been subject to in most of our lives.
Mm-hmm. And this week's episode is right up our alley for multiple reasons, but we've got Kai Wallis on, who specializes in the area of relationships now with a background in sort of more bodywork based modalities. And we love it. We love bodywork. We love anything relationships, anything that can move your relationships into being more conscious, being more aware, being more embodied. And that's what John's all about. So I absolutely loved this conversation. I honestly couldn't get enough. And I'm actually going to be listening back to it with everyone this week because there were so many gold nuggets in there that I finished and I was like, whoa, I need to listen back to that and integrate.
Yeah. And in the realm of psychic healing modalities or things like astrology, human design, and all these different things that we've talked about on the show, there's some people that have a similar path to me. I don't know if we have something going on numerologically there, but he found his way through a bunch of different channels to kind of like a crossroads of information and modalities and resources and some things that line up really well and things that co-resonate with past experiences. So when he lists off Wilhelm Reich or other books to look up or different things, write down those and go check them out because that's the coalescence of his life's work path, what he's seen as what's worked and what doesn't work, because a lot of people that go to him have tried all kinds of different healing modalities. And he tells people he's the last stop, like, go try everything else first and then come to me. And then like, when you're really, really, really ready to actually face your shadow, actually see what's going on, actually let go of what you need to let go of and make the real change, that's his forte.
And two of the books that he mentioned, which I noted down, the 5 personality patterns, which I went to order and then I actually looked on Spotify. My new favorite thing is audiobooks on Spotify. And because I'm a premium member, I get access to all of them.
We're not sponsored by Spotify.
No, we're not. But yeah, they've actually got the 5 personality patterns on audiobook. So even if you've got Audible, I'm sure you'd find it there. And the other one was the erotic blueprint, I'm pretty sure, which I'm also going to look into once I've listened to the 5 personality patterns because, yeah, I mean, this is right up our alley. Like any kind of knowledge, wisdom, things that you can integrate into your being that can help you do any form of healing work, but especially within relationships, like I'm all for it.
Yeah. But I want to point out for some people too, like have a grounding in who you are. Don't look to different people and different modalities and like you're looking for the place to hang your hat on and now you're all that, you know. He mentioned some stuff in here that part of me is like hesitant to go into, but also I understand that there's an adult nature where it's like you're the one that's making decisions for your life, for your family, for your relationships. If it feels right and you're called to something, be a grown up and go into that. Have the courage to move into that. For a little bit, we talk a little bit about some of the BDSM stuff because I was curious about that because he actually found some utility from that. And that's a different paradigm. That's a very different paradigm from my perception of what that whole world is. And that world in the past, you know, was something I steered clear from because it just felt very dangerous, very like unhinged or just imbalanced and like a bunch of lost souls all gathering together and just like being weird and freaky together. And that just made me feel odd. So that's my experience with that. But I can see that there's something else going on there as well. And you have to have the wherewithal to balance that. Is that something that you think you might need, or it's just information? It's just another node point and you can take it or leave it.
Well, in the context that John spoke about this, and this is why I love John's perspective, it's like very left of field. It's not, I've not heard anyone talk about using these sort of different realms of sexuality, let's say, to actually heal through, like use them as a healing tool. But in the context of what he was talking about in this episode is more like within a therapeutic setting. So I don't know his full background, but I know on previous interviews he's talked about some experiences, but it's more from a somatic lens. It's not like, I don't think he was going to sex parties and stuff, but maybe he was. I don't know. But it's an interesting take. It's an interesting take on all this stuff for sure. So it was a very interesting conversation to say the least. I'd love to hear people's opinions, comments, questions. Please let us know, because it was a very, very interesting topic to discuss. And yeah, like I said, John's got a really unique perspective on his approach to relationships and certain forms of healing. So would love to hear from you guys.
All right, guys, before we get into the show, as you all know, we're launching the Refresh deodorant in the States. We've been kind of talking about that for weeks and weeks and weeks as we've been working on that, but we got everything going there. We've got some people ordering, and there is a buy one, get one half off sale. So as I talked about at the beginning of this intro, there's all these synthetic artificial stuff, and some of it was laid against us to slow us down, make us sick, tired, dumb, to eliminate competition from the would-be controllers and all that. So just cleaning out your body, detoxifying, choosing healthier options is a good way to overcome that, very simply by just saying no and just choosing something that's more aligned with your values, with where you want to go with your life. And we both hold that value very closely to our center point. That is the center point of Natural Art Form. That's where it began, was me needing something that was non-toxic, that was actually more effective and natural and more aligned with just my physical body and my environment that I love and care about so much, that I want it without pesticides. I want it without synthetic chemicals and all of that. So if you hold those same values, this deodorant is just one expression of that belief system. And it's really good. There's not really anything else quite like it out there. It's not just a net zero product that doesn't bring toxicity into the body. It actually stimulates the lymphatic system and benefits your body, clearing out those toxins in a gentle way that also reverses body odor and helps you smell amazing and natural, and you can use it for all kinds of stuff. So really, really excited for you to try that.
So for the US and pretty much the rest of the world, there are 2 scent combos on offer. One is Forest, which is cedar, black spruce, pine. Beautiful for the guys, but all of our scents are always unisex, so depends on whatever you prefer. The other scent combo is Calm, which is rosewood, lavender, lemongrass. It's a beautiful, calming, nourishing, soothing scent combo, which also doubles as a magnesium sleep lotion if you need some help relaxing before bed. And in Australia, you've got 3 scent combos to choose from, the same 2 I just mentioned, but we've also got floral. And that buy one, get one 50% off is available worldwide, but only for the first 50 customers. So get in, don't miss out on that. That'll just be running through July. And if you haven't already, join our mailing list at naturalartform.com for the latest news and updates and new launches there.
Well, this show is packed with resources. We'll put as much of it as we can in to the show notes, but obviously some of the books and stuff, just jot it down as you go. Check the show notes for all the other resources, including some of our aligned affiliates.
So as many of you already know, we are entirely self-sponsored by Natural Art Form, but we do affiliate ourselves with some amazing organizations and people that we've had on the show. So one of them is Remedy Collective. So anything homeopathic, remedies, kits. They have new Faraday bags, which are the silver lined EMF protection bags. We have a discount code, Natural AF10, that'll get you 10% off store wide. And we've also got discounted tickets available for the Living Free Festival. And that's, of course, our good friends, Dave and Erin Armstrong, who we've had on the show multiple times. And you can find all of those discount codes and the links in our link tree. So we'd love to see you at the festival. We're going to be there. And yes, definitely support them. And they help to support us a little bit so that we can continue this show as well.
We're busy helping build and grow the freedom economy, businesses and practitioners and some of our guests that are aligned with us, as you well know. I mean, this is the answer we've all been waiting for. We are the answer. You are. By choosing your own health and well-being, by getting around other like-minded people and voting with your dollars, who you want to support, what kind of values you want to see spread in the world. So we're just really grateful for all of you being in this journey with us. So without further ado, let's get into the show.
Let's do it. John Kai Wallis is a relationship mentor, somatic guide, and founder of Aligned Attraction True Love. With over 7,000 hours mentoring high performers, founders, and therapists, John helps people rewire their nervous systems to stop repeating painful patterns and create love that feels like home. His work blends raw truth, somatic intelligence, and radical clarity to help clients rewrite their internal love map and finally stop abandoning themselves in intimacy.
Welcome, John. Welcome to the show.
Pleasure to be here. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah,
so good to have you.
Like we were talking about off camera, so both of us had heard about you from our friends over at Here for the Truth. Really enjoyed. I don't know. Have you done just the one interview with them, or was there multiples?
There's been a couple now, I think.
Yeah, there's been 2, and I also did an exclusive in-person group thing with friends of the
Friends of the Truth. Great.
Yeah. And then we had you on the Living Free movement more recently. That's where you kind of popped up again. And I was like, oh, yeah, John, he's great. We got to get him on.
Yeah. Well, I got to say, I don't know which interview it was, but what you were talking about with terms of your own journey, and then the realizations you came to about all the different like therapy modalities and how someone reaches, I guess, closure on some of the more like patterns, like cyclical patterns and stuff. It really resonated, and it was something that I'd experienced recently, sort of organically going through my own, with the previous relationship, going through like several forms of marital counseling, coming to terms with the fact that I was a codependent and, had all these repressed emotions and traumas from past relationships that were, various degrees of extreme and whatnot. But you've summed up something that I've experienced so well. And I think we'll get to that when it comes to the path to healing.
Well, and it's interesting because Isaac, has resonated with a lot of what you've said on previous interviews, because that was a big turning point for you too, was actually doing the body work with your Asamos. And I know that's a lot of your training is in that, John. So how did you find your way to, I don't know what we want to call it, the true path to healing? Or like, what was your experience with all of that?
Oh, great question. And it came through relationships. Where the woman that I was partnered with at the time of one of my many relationships that I thought was the one, soulmates for sure this time, right? She introduced me to someone who did all this bodywork stuff. I'd never heard of it before. We met him at, I think it was Mind, Body, Spirit Festival in Darling Harbour or somewhere. And he was doing this exercise where he was bringing his hands up from his pelvis to the heart, sharing it with a woman, and the woman was bringing her heart down to her pelvis and bringing it to the man. And there's just this weird thing that was going on. And my partner at the time got up front and did this exercise, and I felt something shift in my body just from doing this. And then before that, I was very much into podcasts and books and learning how to manipulate women and how to perform relationship instead of being who I actually was in the relationship. Anyway, so I ended up working with this mentor, this guy that we met, and he had such a huge toolkit of stuff like constellations and voice dialogue and his own like quantum, I want to call it quantum stuff. But when you start working with family constellations, you can see how there's this field that we're all connected to. Yeah. And he also did the bodywork side of things. So there was the Reichian bodywork, the Loan bodywork, and the Parakos bodywork, and they're all subtly different. But he knew all of them, like his lineage. He worked with John Parakos, who worked with Alexander Lowen to create core energetics. Wow. And before that, there was bioenergetics, and before that, there was Wilhelm Reich and all of his wacky ways, from his orgone to his orgone boxes to the character armor and character structure, character analysis, right? But what I found was doing in this group container with this deep body work, my personality was shifting in ways and I couldn't go back. So all the other work that I'd do, I'd have these little insights and be like, oh, great, I feel great. But then the same pattern and the cycle would repeat. And I'm like, what is going on? So what happened was, after I connected with him and got mentored by him for a couple of years to learn everything that he knew that he was willing to pass on, then I started finding other body workers, like people coming out of the woodwork saying, John, have you worked with this guy? Have you worked with this guy? So in New South Wales in particular, I also flew overseas and did some body work with Bernard Gunther. But in New South Wales in particular, I was working with all kinds of body workers on my body to see what was going on. And it was beyond what I could cognitively understand. But then once I bridge that gap from, I don't actually need to understand it. Once I feel it and allow it to exist without any kind of condemnation or judgment or intellectualizing it, my personality, my behavior, my attitude, I would shift. I would die. The old version of me would die on the table or wherever I was. And that really excited me because I could see that I could connect deeply to people and find this presence that I couldn't find with all the other stuff that I was doing, like my meditation work, my affirmations work, my tapping work, all of the stuff that I was doing previous just didn't crack that nut, but the deep body work did. And just deep body work, but also like craniosacral, Zen Tai, Chinasang, or whatever I could get my hands on. I'm like, yeah, great. Like, where's it going to take me? And it just became almost I don't want to say an addiction, but it was definitely an obsession to like, what else am I going to find in my body? And then that also opened up with plant medicines as well, which kind of bridges the gap, especially shrooms, bridges that gap. I found really nicely between the body work and some more of the more intellectual work.
Yeah.
So does that kind of answer your question in a roundabout
that sounds
way?
exciting.
Yeah.
No, that because I did Urasimos with him. I did the 5-day like intensive and 2 sessions a day. And I just remember there's a lot of stuff going on in the body. You could see like looking, and I've done some intense stuff in my life, but those 5 days looking at myself in the mirror, I looked wrecked, and you're essentially just laying there while he's like walking on you and doing the stuff and you're breathing. And a lot of stuff was getting shifted in a short amount of time using the body. And I was just sitting there like for our audience and for myself too, the curiosity, what is the body after all of that, after everything you've experienced? It's not just a meat suit that like with organs that pump and everything else. What's the body for? Why is it so effective to do all this body work?
That's an awesome question. I can feel it all unlocking in me right now as you say it. So the body is, as far as I see it, is compressed consciousness. And what happens is as you go through life, as you go through self-abandonment, your body starts to armor to adapt to that self-abandonment because you still want to survive, right? So on the other side of the self-abandonment is your true self. So the body holds onto who you really are and is the vessel of who you can potentially be at the same time. That's kind of how I see it. The body is almost like a hard drive / firmware / software / wetware that stores, holds, recalls information that's been done and yet to be.
Yeah, that's such a great way to put it. And I think that was, I went through, I've never done any body work as such, like definitely not what Isaac experienced with Urasimos. But that's been a big part of my healing journey, is just shifting the perspective on that. And Isaac did an interview with Urasimos early on, and the title was "The Body is the Shadow," and that was the first time I'd heard of that concept was from Urasimos, and it makes so much sense because all of this stuff that we repress, that's sort of held in the unconscious, it shows up in our body because it's not just sucked into a vacuum. It's got to show up somewhere, and that is the physical manifestation. Everything starts in the metaphysical first, and then there's a physical manifestation. And just shifting the perspective on that has been so huge for me, but also made me realize how disconnected I've been from my body for most of my life. And I think that's a big one for a lot of people. I think we're conditioned in society to be that way. We just numb out and we don't want to feel and we don't know how to express fully and healthily. And so on that too, I really would love for you to go through the 5 personality patterns, because I find that really fascinating. And I love anything that's kind of like, profiling and things like that. And it's interesting.
Tied to the body, right?
Yeah, because
okay.
That's what I love when you talk about it, John. You start to get a picture of like, oh, I know someone that's like that. I know they're probably like this. So can you run through the 5 personality patterns?
I would love to. Yeah, the 5 personality patterns. So for those of you who haven't bought the book and are keen in buying the book, it's called The 5 Personality Patterns by Stephen Kessler. And he's just got a new one out too. I thought I had it in here, but I don't. It's specifically about relationships and how to use
amazing.
the 5 personality patterns in your relationships. And so Stephen's just made it idiot-proof, like this book, because when you read Marcus and Lowen and Reich, it's like, oh my God, this is like that German translation into English, into just Italian, and it's just like, oh my God, it's all over the place, but it's quite in depth. But Stephen Kessler's just simplified it real nice, gives you some really easy entry level exercises to do to get you in your body, in your feelings, in your truth, without the more confrontational side of stuff that comes through core energetics in particular, where it becomes much more confrontational. It's you're pushing the edge of what it means to be human. It means to be you. But doubling back to the 5 personality patterns, so like there's 5, and I'll use you 2 as a good example. So Isaac, you're more of the aggressive type as a default, how you're showing up for me right now.
Makes sense.
And then Alexa, you're more of the rigid type as we are showing up right now in this conversation. All right.
Yeah.
Now what can show up is the other types can show up in relationship, where, like, for example, in a conversation, like one of you might become more merging, or one of you might become more leaving, where you just want to get away, create space, create distance, or need to go away and process.
Yeah.
Or there might be a part of you that when you do feel some like quite intense emotions come in, you hunker down and you're like, oh, I'm not going to feel that right now. I'm going to be stoic. Or you could put like a therapy face on, not really feel all the feelings, but like, I'm going to hold space for you in this therapy way, instead of being like in a partnership where it's like, yeah, let's get fucking messy, you know? In the 5 personality patterns, they're all installed or incurred at various stages of development. So you have the leaving pattern, which can be installed from 0 to can be about 1 to 2, depends on the family environment. Then you got the merging, which is around the breastfeeding age and a little bit after. Then you have enduring, which is around the ages of 3, when you start to exert some will. You become a bit of a toddler. You start distancing yourself from your parents. You really realize that there's a me and a them. Then there's the aggressive type and the rigid type, which can occur in puberty and post-puberty, depending on what happens. But what Reich, Lowen, and Marcus discovered in their clinical practice was that people would rock up and they'd have particular postures and the same relational issues. And then Reich identified it first. He's like, there's something that's in this. What's here? And then he drew a bridge between the patterns in his client base that, particularly with religion, religion was armoring people sexually. They couldn't get a full orgasmic release. And orgastic potency is something that Reich speaks to, where if your body's armored, you can't be free. You can't be free to be yourself. And then it influences how you speak, how you show up, how the partners that you attract, right? And then Lowen took it deeper into like depression and fear of life. And then Marcus started weaving in the spiritual component in there, where there needs to be a connection to spirit in all of this. It's not just the body in its own container. Yeah. There's also something that's much bigger than the body that flows through the body, and the body's the vessel, the container, the canvas that thing flows through. And when you're armored, when you're rigid, when you're held back, when you're holding in, when you're holding back, all that kind of stuff, then you display this inauthentic behavior, which just shows up as neuroticism or something else. Usually it shows the best in your relationships. Just straight away you can see it. Going deeper into the 5 personality patterns, super simple way of looking at it and how it shows up in the body is the leaving pattern tries to hold it all together. Right. So if you can feel like you're trying to hold the relationship together or hold it together, that's leaving pattern. All right. The merging pattern tries to hold on. So they'll hold on to someone. They'll try and I don't want to let you go. Like I'll lose myself in this relationship so I don't lose you. The enduring pattern holds in. So when you feel like something comes up, like some rage, even joy can be the same thing. So there's not just the shadow in the body, the golden shadow is also in the body, right?
Yeah.
So joy can come up, you hold it in. It's like, I'm not going to be excited. I'm not going to be happy. I'm not going to express this joyous, fun part of me. So I'm going to hold that in. And then there's holding up, which is in the aggressive. So the aggressive type is a great leader. They know how to hold things up when you know it's going to shit. It's like, I'm going to hold this up. But what happens is when it's in survival mode, when it's in survival strategy, it doesn't know when to let go. So I've got to hold up this business, got to hold up this country, got to hold up this team, got to hold it up. So it gets exhausting for them because it requires a constant exertion of their will. Because to put it down means, I've got to rely on somebody else. And to rely on somebody else means, I've got to trust people. And the core injury of the aggressive is that they've been betrayed so often and so early. It's like, I can't trust anyone. I've got to do it more myself, right? And then with the rigid holds back, right? The rigid holds back. And while I'm speaking to all this, if you two are feeling something in your body, that's normal as well, because I'll speak to things that you might have in you, and that's totally okay. Just keep breathing. So the rigid holds back. So when they go to be authentic, right, when they go to speak themselves, speak their truth, there's a part of them that actually feels like it's on their that this holds them back a little bit, including like in business, if you want to ask for more money from a client or ask for a raise, or in an intimate moment, ask for some form of pleasure, like, I'd love for you to touch me like this, or don't touch me like this, right? There can be this, I don't know how to be. It can be this like jerking backwards and forwards in the body. It's so subtle, but once you become aware of it, it doesn't have control of you anymore, because you just know it. It's like, I know what that is. Or what is it that I really want to say? I actually don't know. I just feel really awkward and embarrassed right now. Great. Just say that. I feel awkward and embarrassed right now. Awesome. Great. The shame no longer has any control over you. Just go about your life.
Yeah, I love that. And I love, because I found this too when I first heard you. I'd heard you talk about the 5 personality patterns before, but not when I think you came on the Living Free movement. You did a whole webinar just on that and really broke it down. And it was interesting because I think you can definitely see different patterns show up in different stages of your life and within different relationship dynamics and things like that. So is that normal? Because it also kind of reminds me of, how we contain the whole universe within us. So we kind of do contain all these patterns, but they'll show up in different ways and in different settings.
Totally. Absolutely. I mean, they're survival strategies. So at any point when you feel like you're under threat, you'll just default to one.
Yeah.
It shows up anywhere. It can show up at the shops, can show up at the Mullumbimby markets, can show up anywhere, right? It can just show up wherever you're doing your thing.
Yeah. And do people tend to do they tend to be more like one more than the others, or does it really depend on the person?
There's 2 that an individual will choose as their most useful, right?
Yeah.
So when you're a child, you have all 5, and you begin with all 5, and then as you get older, you start to emerge as the most popular.
Yeah.
And then what happens once you start to get those 2? They're no longer survival strategies. You can just be present to them. The other 3 can pop up. And then you just work through all of them until you have complete presence over your body. And to go a little bit more advanced, there's actually 9 personality patterns, but to keep it super simple is 5. So the other 4 are more at a practitioner level, and they're very nice to hear. They're not very they're not like nice and wrapped in a nice little bow like the aggressive or the endurer or the merging pattern. They're leaving. The other ones are quite critical. They're charged. But yeah, there's five. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did
Yeah,
that
that's the
answer your
first time I've
question?
heard that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so I'm definitely gonna have to go back and listen to the full breakdown of the five on the LFM platform, because that's it's fascinating to me. And I've had this fascination with psychology and patterns and all this stuff. And the more I open up to myself and find those wounded parts, or the parts that were insecure, or the parts that, like you said, are exhausted. That's just the pinnacle of where you heal. Like, what is going on with you? The more I work with that, the better I interact with other people. So my external relationships get better the more I go internal. And I think that's, for me, that's something that's kind of, at this point in time, is difficult for me when I talk to people, for them to actually see and accept. I get a lot of pushback on that sometimes from people that aren't normally in my circle. Like, if there's a conflict going on and I'm explaining to them, you're really upset about this, and I understand that. And if you look at the situation, if you work on that within you, there's a part of you that you're projecting onto other people, that you're saying you're doing this and you're doing that, but it's an internal struggle. If you work on that internal struggle, I think you'll find some alleviation in your external world.
It's a big concept for people to get their head around when they don't understand it.
Yeah, is that a good way to simplify it, or does it get broken down even easier for something like that?
What's another way? What's another angle I could take it? Okay, so we're in a field of energy and frequency, and when you yourself as an individual are carrying a certain frequency, you're going to naturally attract people into your life that will encourage you to harmonize, to be at peace, to be present. So when you in yourself are confronted with conflict or discord or something that's dissonant, something that's out of resonance with you, you have a choice within yourself to be with that and understand what's actually going on. Is this an injury, or is this something that I need to repel? Because what happens sometimes on the when you're between places is we can accept something that actually does need to have some forceful get the fuck out of my face type energy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in that, there can be it's not always you, sometimes it's you, but then at some point when you cross that bridge and you realize that actually it's not me and it is me, but where am I going with that? It isn't me and it isn't me. Did my own head in there. That you just intuitively know within yourself what you need to express, and you can hold love for the person without needing to try and save them or stop them from their own hurt and pain that you might be delivering to them. Like, for example, with Cassie and I, like when we fight, we go all in, right? Because we know how to repair on the other side. So I encourage people to learn how to fight all in. Just tell them how you feel. So I'm fucking pissed off. I hate this shit. You do this to me all the time, right? Instead of the non-violent communication, try and filter it through something that's inauthentic. It's like, cool, like, because the love in the container, the love in the relationship containers would hold it together, right? Be authentic. And then on the other side of it, you actually come together even deeper because you can just be yourself.
Yeah.
Right? Which is why, and it's in that being in yourself and being yourself where there's a natural safety and security that increases your longevity. It increases your vitality. It helps you heal faster if you have an injury, right? So just these things that naturally come from being in an authentic relationship, which can't be bypassed through trying to negotiate like conflict in a janky way. But doubling back to what you said, Isaac, about the reflection piece, is that particularly through the 5 personality patterns, is you can instantly have compassion for the other person because you can see what's going on in their body. So you can diffuse conflict like seconds before it happens. People already walk into your space and into your field ready to just be open and intimate and honest. So what I've found is that people will just come up to me and say things to me that they wouldn't normally pour their heart out. I mean, a lot of people experience this too.
Mhm.
But for me, they do want me to go deeper with them. It's like, hey, like, I don't know why I'm telling you this. Like, do you know why? And I said, well, I do. Let's go deeper into that. So the 5 personality patterns give you a blueprint to understand people beyond human design, Myers-Briggs, Enneagram, and all those other personality tests, because there's a one-to-one relationship between the person, their body, and their behavior.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I actually love that this has come up, because I just saw this post on Instagram yesterday, and she's a shadow work coach, this account that I'd seen it on. And she's all for, like, her whole approach is like really blunt, really in your face. And I love that because, and there was a post that I saw and I commented on, because it was about this, like pretty much what you just said. Like, there are moments where you just need to be assertive and literally, like you said, be like, get the fuck out of my face, or don't talk to me like that. And I think what we're seeing in these like very quote unquote conscious, new age, spiritual realms now is where it's gone way too far the other side, where everything's love and light. And if someone is aggressive towards you, just show them love. And it's very passive. And we talk about this a lot on this show, is how men have become that way because they go into these sort of spiritual spaces. They lose all of their masculinity, like they're so unintegrated, and they become these very passive, weak men. And we've really lost that. And I didn't mean to segue into this, but I've been seeing your posts lately too, John, on Polarity, which we love. I was so excited that we were getting you on, because like, we have to talk to John about this because it's a huge topic for us, especially because we've had our own experiences before our relationship of that, what I would call being unintegrated, because we're big believers that you can't be men shouldn't be 100% masculine all the time. That's also out of balance. Just as women shouldn't be in their femininity 100% of the time. That's not how polarity works. It's really comes down to the integration. And I love what you've been talking about with this. So I've just opened up a whole can of worms. So go wherever you want with that.
Oh, yeah, I love cans of worms. Actually, one of my first clients said to me, John, I don't want to open up these cans of worms. I'm like, well, that's what I'm here for. Let's open up some cans of worms. And you guys are in the thick of it, right? You guys are in the northern rivers, aren't you?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Yeah.
That's
So,
why Isaac's noticed it. Yeah, that's literally, he came here and he's like, what's with the guys around here? They're just so passive. And it's like and it's also like the Aussie culture on top of that. Like, she'll be right, mate. Like, it's just real. Everyone's so laid back, and there's not a very strong masculine presence at all.
Totally. And like, I spent some time in Northern Rivers, actually lived on Coolamon Scenic Drive for a few months, and I know what you're talking about. And that from the 5 personality patterns, it's one of the subsets of the rigid that doesn't get spoken about very much, which is called the passive feminine man. And it's not spoken about very much because it's so confrontational. Don't call me passive feminine, but like, it fits all these guys to a T. There's actually some great YouTube videos by Devaraj Sandberg that talks about the passive feminine man. But when you talk about it in therapy or in core energetics therapy, the men that are passive feminine really need to own it. Like, they need to own that they're basically, they've handed their penis to their mum or the feminine, and that they're afraid to be castrated by their dad, or afraid to be like punished by their dad. So in that paradox of being aggressive towards men, they kind of fawn, fall on their stomach, show their belly. And then with women, they don't lean in, right? They become this wishy-washy, which can really piss a woman off, especially if they're slightly more rigid and or more hysterical, because they can smell it. They can smell it straight away. You're going to let me down. I don't want you in a battle with me. You're just going to fucking run away. Get away from me. You disgust me. Your level of disintegration. But in the context of polarity, what shows up is if you don't include Carl Jung's wisdom of the anima and the animus, the polarity is purely role play.
Yeah.
Where to be masculine and not incorporate any feminine, and to be feminine and not incorporate any masculine. You're just dancing with a performance. And what shows up here in the context of the 5 personality patterns is someone who isn't connected to their core. So someone who's merging pattern, who has a merging pattern, who's not connected to their core, will just onboard whatever information that they get just to feel something, just to feel, oh, this could be me. I'm going to try this on. Oh, it's working. I'm in a community with other people that I can do deep staring with for 10 minutes at a time, but not actually incorporate who I am at the core. But I can pretend to be this other thing. So I build this false persona, which then everybody else builds this false persona. So there's this collective collusion of a false persona, but no one actually goes anywhere, right? And then on the other side, there can be the more rigid types who onboard it as, oh yeah, great, I've got a rule kit, a bunch of rules that I can live by where this is masculine and this is feminine. Therefore, if I just stay within these parameters, I'll always be loved, or I'll find people that are going to love me, right? But what happens is when you get into a relationship, you cannot avoid the realities of your childhood. You just can't run from it, okay? No matter how you try and frame it in polarity speech or attachment theory or whatever or poetry or whatever it is that you want to try and re-lens it, the raw, brutal truth throughout your childhood is that you weren't loved for who you were. So you become something else in order to fit into a family system, and that just mirrors in your relationship until you return back to your core self and actually confront it and own it, that, oh, I'm actually someone that isn't very nice sometimes. I can actually be an asshole maybe 50% of the time, and I can be a really loving person the other 50% of the time. But that's who I am. Either love me or leave me, but this is who I am. Like that's it. That's who I am. But with the polarity space, if you don't integrate that masculine and feminine within yourself, it's pure performance. And then because it's easy to sell, you got Instagram account after Instagram account of polarity theory work without any deep integration. And what I find hilarious is a lot of these people are fucking single.
Yeah,
it's like, how can you teach something if you can't actually make it work? And sure, there are some amazing teachers out there who are single. Maybe they've gone through a lot and they do teach deep wisdom. But for the most part, if you're in your 20s or 30s and you haven't had deep relationship and you're talking about polarity like you can just do it, then what are you doing? Like, what are you doing? Like, really? Yeah.
Yeah. Is there a polarity school that people go to where they learn all these terms? Because it's like this pattern I'm seeing. I'm like, I don't know what some of these words mean. I could cognitively figure it out, but I'm like, where do you learn to talk like that? Like, how does that become a normal operating for you? Because to me, it's just, I don't know. I grew up in Wyoming. I grew up in the country, and I grew up seeing, cows humping cows, horses humping horses. Like, it's pretty just raw nuts and bolts. Like, that's the way I think, just putting this block, that block, and then the mysterious stuff in the middle, I bring on experts like you.
But that's it though. It's so simple. That's why I love that, Isaac, because it's just so simple. It's like, just get back to nature. Like, what does nature do? How does nature handle it? Like, yeah, cows on cows, horses on horses. It's like, yeah, cool, nuts and bolts. It's like there's a temptation to overcomplicate. Right? When you just see it for what it is and just acknowledge it for what it is and feel it, because nature has got those archetypal memories within us. So just feel the thing, like you watch a stallion storming up and down the side of the fence line with all the mares that are tempting him. Right? It's like, oh yeah, we see that in the real life, in the real world, right? In the human world, like mares being mares and stallions being stallions. But in that, when we overlay language to try and box it in, and we don't understand where the language is coming from, we self-abandon, which is what I see in the polarity space. There's a lot of self-abandonment. To go deeper in the BDSM and kink world, there is a polarity that works quite well, but you got to go through the BDSM and kink world to understand and be mentored by someone who understands what dominance is in the kink world, because there's a languaging of polarity in the BDSM space that doesn't flow through to the theory in relationship polarity. There's a real distinction there, which I think is worth exploring for couples in particular who want to see what's really going on in their sex life. Like, including like shibari and those kinds of technologies that
What's shibari?
can connect you to your body. Shibari is being tied up with rope. So like there's clients that I'll recommend that have certain types of trauma patterns in their body that they go and get shibari. I recommend all kinds of therapy to specific people depending on where they're at in their integration journey. But for some people who need to be controlled or who are afraid of being controlled, can pendulum both sides of the spectrum, is I recommend a shibari practitioner where they tie them up. And in the tying up, it's a ritualistic process of being contained. And for someone who's not used to being contained, it really is a transformative experience, because the practitioner, the one that I recommend, is a local to me, and we're quite close. She holds a container of pure curiosity and is present with you because she's trained in it, right? So she's curious about, like, is this too tight? Is this okay? How's your breath? And it turns into, it's a process. Like, it's not like IFS or shadow work or something else. It's purely somatic. And because you're being loved and nurtured by someone, the containment is within your own tolerance of your nervous system. So, yeah, shibari. I think it works for people who need the control, in particular, and haven't been contained, which the aggressive pattern usually is not used to being lovingly contained. They kind of get threatened with containment, or it's used as force. So what they're really looking for is to be able to trust their containment. And when you can when an aggressive patterned person, I want to make a clear distinction, just segue. You are not your pattern. You are not your pattern, okay? The pattern is something that just gets overlaid over you, which is a lot of people can have, but it's not who you are. You're underneath that pattern. Just want to make that clear segue. But doubling back to the aggressive pattern person, is that once they can feel that there's people around them that they can trust, their heart opens in a way which transforms their style of leadership, where there's no longer the need to exert willpower or threat. It's just pure, people just want to follow them because they know that they're speaking their truth. So yeah, that's what I got for you on that.
If you're listening to this podcast, chances are you have a curious mind, an open heart, and are a seeker of freedom and truth. And there is nothing more freeing than seeking and finding the truth of who you are. And this is where I'd love to support you. I'm a self-alignment coach that helps you to align with who you were divinely born to be, not who you were conditioned to be. The aim of my work is to guide you to live a more purposeful and fulfilling life that is totally authentic to you. One of the modalities I work with is Site K, where I facilitate you in transforming your limiting beliefs and perceptions into empowering beliefs that align with your goals and where you want to be in life, not where you've already been, which is often lost, stuck, or unfulfilled. I also work with Human Design, which offers an energetic blueprint of who you are and how you were designed to operate in the world. I offer readings for both individuals and couples, as it is not only an amazing tool for self-discovery and alignment, but also for understanding different relationship dynamics. So if you're ready to overcome blocks and programming that doesn't serve you anymore, unlock your potential, and harness your innate gifts, then I'd love to work with you. Get started today and book in an obligation-free 30-minute discovery call with me via the link in the show notes, and I'd love to connect and see how I can support you. Do something today that your future self will thank you for. It is amazing all the many forms of body work that there are and that can be explored. I think that's because I think, I know when Isaac told me about the work he did with Erasmus, I was like, I don't think I'd be able to handle that. I don't know how I'd go with that. And
maybe that's my kink. I'm just kidding. So I want to dive into that a little bit, because I get the feeling that I know on some level where you're coming from, but there are all the society programming or religious programming around those words, BDSM and kink. And a lot of that, because there is some element of it that comes back to like shame or like degradation of some sort, where you're kind of like putting someone like subjecting someone to humiliation. So is this something that the way you're describing, the way you're experiencing it, that it's like non-sexual, it's more about internal like seeing what's there, what are your limits, and then also what's a healthy way to unlock some things, or is this does this get freaky?
Bit of column A, bit of column B. So what what I'll preface it with this is that what Reich discovered was that sexual energy is what drives and motivates the being. So if there is religious programming, if there's a part of you that doesn't feel like your sex is welcome, like how you show up in the world, your sexual expression, then it'll come out in some kind of neurotic or other way. Like you'll try and control your world in some other way. But doubling back to the kink scene and the domination scene and the humiliation scene, is that some people need to feel a certain thing in order to feel the relief. It's all about relief. Being able to complete the charge and discharge cycle so you can return to presence, return to self. So what shows up in the day-to-day, for example, like you go to a job, all right, you might not like your job. So you start charging, right? You charge. I don't want to be here. Don't really want to be here, right? Then you come home, and if you don't know how to discharge that, you might go to alcohol or something else, put something on to disconnect, but that's not a complete discharge. So what happens is your body accrues a charge because you're not completely getting a discharge. The best discharge is a good orgasm, like a deep body trembling, like holes through the wall, holes through the bed style orgasm, right? Where the neighbors are calling the police to say, "Hey, I think someone's being killed next door." It's like, no, it's my bae. No, it's just we just go at it sometimes, right? So if you can enjoy sex and laugh about it and have fun with it, then there's no real need to do all that BDSM stuff. It really comes with how I see it is that if you're keen to explore it in your heart and soul or heart and body and heart and being, like, I want to check that out. What is that all about? Then go and do the thing. But there can be part of you that does need to experience humiliation. And that was a huge transformation with me. I think I spoke about this with on Here for the Truth, is that humiliation is a really important part, especially for the rigid survival pattern, the rigid survival strategy, the rigid personality pattern, where they're so afraid of their authentic expression that they'll avoid anything that could expose who they really are. Expose an authentic expression. Right? And this is a survival pattern, remember? So they've survived by looking perfect on the outside. They've survived by making sure that their boxes are ticked, their clothes are folded in a perfect way, everything is neat and tidy in its correct place in the drawers, right? And they're averse to chaos for the most part. They might have an area of life that they allow chaos, which gives a bit of relief and discharge, but for the most part, their life needs to be ordered 7, 8, 9 o'clock at night, doing this thing, this routine, that thing, right? So that security gives them a sense of control, but they can really struggle with being authentic and having authentic fun without some kind of leverage like alcohol or a plant medicine or something else. But did that answer your question?
Yeah, it kind of makes more of a picture because it's just something that I haven't experienced, but I've wondered about that because you see the trope come up in movies and TV shows, and it kind of makes sense when you frame it like that, where there'll be a powerful CEO that has this thing where he needs to go and get dominated by a woman, and it's like in my mind before all this, I'm like he's just fucked up in some way, and he's just like playing some kind of like trauma loop, and he likes to go back and replay the trauma loop. But part of me thinks also there might be something in that's therapeutic, that's helping him in some way. Like there's a trade-off. He's not just doing it because he has to. Like it's obviously a choice. So yeah,
it's interesting, and I'd love to get your opinion too, John, on what's sort of at play. Just because this is something that I've experienced in my younger years, and now going through a lot of the healing that I'm doing, it's something that has come up a lot. Is how, like, promiscuity, particularly in women, how does that relate to the 5 personality patterns, and then what can be the I guess like what counters that?
Yeah, great question. I'll do 2 things there. One, I'll touch on that example that Isaac gave of this executive, and I'll come back to your promiscuity piece. So I don't know if you two are familiar with the erotic blueprints.
No.
No, maybe not. Okay,
Nope.
cool. So there's someone called Jaya. I can't remember her last name, but she came up with 5 erotic blueprints, and they actually map really nicely to the 5 personality patterns. In the context of that executive, most executives run the aggressive pattern, and they're used to power, they're used to control, and they're used to not surrendering. Because like, no, I'm here. I've got the answers. Like, I've got to be this. I've got to hold up this organization, right? So from the erotic blueprints, I've mapped that to the kinky style of play of erotic blueprint, where they do need to have this release. And what you mentioned there, Isaac, about this underlying trauma loop is that, yeah, the trauma loop could be they're in a job that they actually don't enjoy, right? So they're living this lie of a life to look like they want to be in control, but actually they don't want to even do that job, but that's the qualification that they ended up with, or that's what makes them their daddy proud, or whatever it is. So they have this inner conflict where they need to seek relief elsewhere instead of through a relationship or something else. Yeah. And then over to the promiscuity piece. So in the 5 personality patterns, there's a subset of the rigid for the female called the hysterical female. And again, it's a term that's used very often because there's such a charge over hysterical from where it's come from,
Right.
and all that. But if you're looking at the classic German, if you're just looking at it from a clinical point of view, it's like, okay, cool, that's the hysterical pattern. So yeah, great. Yeah, cool. We now have a model that we can work with, right? So what trends to happen with the hysterical female is there's been some form of heart to pelvic split where they've been valued for their image, but not really valued for their core, who they really are, right? So their image gets put on a pedestal, and then their heart gets put lower on the pedestal. It's like, well, we don't really care what you say, but how well can you fuck? Like, we don't care what's really going on in your inner world, but how can you parade for us? How can you perform for us, right? And what happens, it usually gets installed by the father, but it can be installed by the mother, where they obsess about your appearance. They just give you appearance about your praise. It's all praise is about your appearance, right? And what you do instead of who you are, right? So the way to remedy that, one is to acknowledge that there is some disconnect between my heart and my pelvis, and then being able to bridge that with body work is usually the best way to do it. Some form of, sometimes it can be kahuna, sometimes it can be tantric massage. I mean, I know you're in the Northern Rivers, so there won't be any shortage of those. But in that, trying to find a practitioner that you trust, that you really trust, Alexa, and that you can open your whole body to, because it is a sensitive injury to have a look at, because it tends to be stored in the wombic space as well as the ovaries and that whole region. Like, I've found women who exhibit the hysterical pattern to have like endometriosis, chronic periods, really heavy clotting during their periods, whole kinds of issues that go on with their womb space. Now, and then once you deal with it, once you can express the rage towards the men who have used you, express the rage towards the mother that may not have been there to nurture you and model you of what a respectful woman is, right? Once you get rid of all that, there's no longer a charge around the promiscuity piece. You just know it's a phase that you went through, and you had some valuable lessons, but there's also a backlog of feeling in there. Because what can also show up, in particular with women, is when they're allowing their body to be used that way, is there can be an armoring around the womb and the cervix that, like, I'm unlovable at quite a deep level, and it also impacts how you orgasm. And what can also show up in the hysterical female, and sometimes the masculine female, is they can only climax through clitoral stimulation, and to feel that to feel the phallus or a phallus-like object inside them can be quite uncomfortable, because the clitoral stimulation just gets enough of the charge away to let them feel some relief, but not deep enough for them to feel the grief and the regret and the remorse of what they've gone through.
Yeah, there's a lot that you said that there's a lot that really resonates. And it's good though, because also as you were talking, there was a lot, I feel there's a lot I've definitely healed from. But there's still some things, because it's something that because obviously within the relationship that Isaac and I are in, and, doing things more consciously and, having a lot of this knowledge, this has been the container for me to be able to do a lot of this healing. And our friend Leanne Lapinto, I'm actually in her community group now. And we go deep into this, because that's what she says for her, like the sexual healing. She has like sexual trauma from her childhood. Like that was the final frontier for her in terms of like the inner healing. And so, I find it fascinating. And so, we have been exploring that. And that was one of the things she recommended to me that we sort of explored, was just allowing the emotion to come up, like during intimacy, if there are emotions. And I have experienced that, like you said, like the grief coming up. And it's like that when it comes to the body, there is no rational, it doesn't make sense. Like I'm not like, why am I crying? Like, but she's like, just allow that. And whereas when those things have come up for me before, I've tried to stop it and like shove it down kind of thing. So I think it is very, very powerful stuff to be working with.
It is. And for the hysterical in particular, and the rigid, is to give themselves permission to feel that all of them is welcome. All of them is welcome. And with the clients that exhibit the hysterical pattern, an exercise that I get them to do, one is massage their jaw. They tend to have either TMJ or grind their teeth during the night. And getting into the tight spots in the jaw and really feeling and sounding what the pain wants to express. And then after that, I give them a gibberish exercise. Gibberish. So just talk nonsense and send me a voice note of you talking nonsense. So it sounds similar to speaking in tongues, but it's not. But what happens is when you eliminate the need to try and articulate perfectly, you relax the jaw, and it allows for communication to be more authentic, particularly in the rigid and in the hysterical pattern, the subset. What happens is when people start sending me these messages is I can hear the part of them that's holding back, because it sounds fucking ridiculous. Like it sounds just insane, some of the stuff that'll come out of your mouth, right?
Yeah.
And because the mind is trying to, like, is this correct? Is isn't ticking the box of how normal people speak? Am I allowed to speak this way? So you come face to face with that pattern of, well, can I just speak this way? And sometimes it takes someone multiples of attempts to speak with gibberish to actually connect to the core of who they are. And the witnessing piece is really important. So you can talk it to yourself in the mirror until you're blue in the face, but it's just you in the room, right? But when you send that recording or something to someone, somebody else is witnessing you, when you have that witness, that's where the transformation comes in. And if you have more witnesses, that's an even deeper transformation. Like if you're doing it in group, that's an even deeper transformation. So like there's layers to the hysterical, but the most important one is knowing that all of them is welcome.
Yeah.
And that that the heightened sexual charge that they have is hiding an underlying emotion that they're not allowed to touch because it breaks the rules. They're not allowed to go into because it breaks whatever the rules that's running their life or running their intimacy space. One can be, I'm only allowed to have sex in this particular place, in this particular place, and outside of that place, I'm not going to have sex, right? So what's one word for the rigid is relax. Do your best to relax. Do your best to relax, because the rigid tends to be armored across the chest. Then the same thing with the hysterical. But yeah, hopefully that was helpful.
It's actually
for either the men out there.
Yeah,
Totally.
It's actually so interesting on so many levels, because even when you just said like very armored across the chest, I had breast implants for almost 10 years. I got them taken out last year. And that was another huge like healing I went through, not just physically, but it was this, it was the realization, like once I'd realized, because they were making me really unwell, but then having to then revisit why I got them in the first place, there was like this huge like self-loathing piece and this self-hatred. But that makes a lot of sense too, because when I got like those years that I was really promiscuous, it was all like it was pretty much from then, like I had decided like I was getting them. Like I had decided years before I actually got them. And what you said about the disconnect between the heart and the womb, it just, it makes so much sense. It's very, very interesting. I'm just kind of, I'm processing so much of it because it's just like, it's really landing. And I do hope that it helps other women listening to this that can relate, because there's definitely, I think, I agree with Leanne, like this kind of is the final frontier. And I think so many people are really afraid to go there in terms of like the sexual healing and things like that, especially when you don't fully understand. It took me a while to even fully understand it. But like Leanne says, it is our most potent, and she calls it holy energy. The way it does also connect us to God. What are your thoughts on that?
It's definitely an energy that's in its own league. In its own league. I think it connects to ourselves, where like orgasm and foreplay and arousal is unique to the individual. So if you subscribe to the notion that we are all connected and we're all fragments of the divine, fragments of God, compressed consciousness, then that sexual potency is something that connects all of us. And Reich knew this. He could see this when he saw that religiosity was shutting people down, and they've become even more neurotic because they weren't allowed to express who they really were at the core. And then there's also a shadow side to sexual expression too, where like you could talk about that too, and some of the LGBTQ++ type communities,
right,
where they're not taking control, they're not actually auditing. Hey, maybe there's something else going on here that's not all green light. If you get my drift.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and there's a lot of like we want people to give themselves permission, but there's this other pattern of permissiveness where it's like there's no boundaries, anything goes. And particularly when I see men getting into that, where it's like this very like, it's like that feminine, but it's not so much passive, but it kind of gets into like anything goes, no one's protected. If anything goes, the children aren't protected, animals aren't protected, like nothing's safe. Everything's, I'm going to violate anything and everything. And it's not violating it. It's, me expressing myself, and I see that with the lack of true authentic masculinity, where there's no, like, you don't have to be completely closed off, like, monk, but there needs to be a boundary. There needs to be some awakening and alignment, and like a bit of that natural protective instinct. Like, just for a picture, we had this beautiful experience of this male and female goanna just right off our front porch here, and they were making love in the animal sense. It was very passionate. I mean, it was sweet. It was like,
it was really beautiful to see. Yeah.
It was subtle, but afterwards, the male, you could see he was like protecting. He's like, this is a female.
He was like kind of on top of her, and you could see kind of as it was happening, and then just afterwards for quite a while they didn't move. He literally just was on top of her, and he was very kind of alert of what was going on. And again, it's so interesting to look at nature and
so in the wild sense, you can see like they're not ashamed at all. Like they're right there by our house having sex outside in public and all that. They don't care. But there's also this protective nature that was I recognize. I'm like, yeah, I got you, bro. Like, secure the perimeter. Yeah. So what's going on with the men with that? Like, they're not securing the perimeter. Yeah.
Exactly. That's a great analogy. And I think because where you guys are at geographically, you're just drowning in it. Like you just can't not help but see it everywhere.
Yeah.
I think what shows up is what's easier. There's no hardness. There's no conflict. There's no thing to rub up against to question the belief system, because there's a collusion of this all being the same. Like you join a men's group, it's got a talking stick and you just talk about feelings forever instead of actually doing the hard thing or doing the confrontational things or taking ownership or responsibility of the children that you've created or whatever it is, right? It's this perpetual allowance. And that's what I like about the core energetics work, is because it's confrontational. Like when the aim is to piss somebody off so you feel the edge. Because until someone gets really angry, like rageful, like they want to take you out kind of anger, you don't know where their edge is, and it's not safe. Right? You don't know what that is. And I feel men that don't know what that edge is are not safe. So they find other men who don't know their edge and just create communities and then create cults and then create trainings and certifications and all that kind of stuff, right? But that's that world. Right? I don't think there's anything that you could specifically do about it, but it will just eat itself. It's unsustainable. It's just unsustainable. So for me, I'm like, yeah, great. Look, I know it. That can potentially go. When you don't have that conflict, it becomes an homogenized mess. And there's people in there that will rise above that and be like, I can't stay in these communities anymore. This fucking cult. Like, it's just ridiculous. I'm going. Great, cool. So what happens is those people that leave it's just natural selection. It's consciousness going, okay, cool. I get it. We get it. It's not working. It doesn't work. Time for the next evolution. Time for the next frequency shift. Time for whatever it is. But for me, I'm like, great. You guys stay there. Stay the fuck away from my family. And then you can smell them like when they're around because you can see it in men. Like around playgrounds, you can see it in men that just don't know their edge. And I go on guard. Like when I can see that coming, it's like, yeah, cool. Like Cassie and I, like before we had our kids, we'd spend a lot of time at nudist beaches. And like a nudist beach is the perfect place to pick up on predator behavior, right? It's like you see a guy coming, well, I'm like, hey, Cass, I'm just gonna put this towel over you, babe. I'm just gonna cover you while this creep walks past. And there's other guys that are like, yeah, cool. Like he's boundaried. Like I can see he's fucking boundaried. Like he gets it, right?
Yeah.
But I think that only comes through attunement of knowing your edge, knowing that there's a part of you that if push came to shove, that you would need to take somebody out. Like that's just part of it. And I think until you go to that threshold of and knowing when you can push the edge and when just to hold that line, you just don't know yourself. And if you don't know yourself, then you're a fucking danger, not just to your family, but everybody else around you.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I was just thinking of too with that is these men that don't express. And then it's this explosive anger, which is also extremely unsafe. And it reminds me of that very archetypical abusive man. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like the passive feminine doubles down into the nice guy type syndrome, where they're trying to perform nice, they're trying to perform husband, they're trying to perform being a great partner. But then as soon as that man has his inadequacy exposed enough times, he snaps. So it's all about inadequacy. If you can just be with your inadequacy and just know you're human, you can just pivot in that so quickly. It's like, oh, there's that feeling again. Yeah, fucked up, fall on the sword, whatever I need to do. Sorry, babe. Yep, I'll do better next time, or whatever it is. I'll do me next time. I won't perform. I won't try and do it all. You just pivot and you move through it. But if you're trying to perform nice guy, trying to perform great husband or great partner, then it's a powder keg. It's an absolute powder keg.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and another thing that's come up, so I'll ask first, have you listened to the Aubrey Marcus podcast that he did with his wife and their lover, their throuple relationship? Have you heard about this?
I've heard about it. Yes, indulge me. Let's get some gossipy. I know we just love a good bit of gossip. So hit me out. What are we doing?
Yeah, we'll give you. So it was the three of them. So him, his wife, their new lover, and some therapist guy who's just an absolute. He's actually a quack. You know, they call them quacks.
He's got a vibe.
Yeah, and so long story short, they're basically calling their arrangement radical monogamy and radical commitment, which the therapist is just like really like just validating everything that they're saying. And this is just the natural evolution of love. And it reminds me of that man who, and also, again, I really didn't know who Aubrey Marcus was until very recently. So I'm not like really well versed, but I know that a lot of other people have spoken. He's like very big on like polarity, and like he's had, just scrolling through his Instagram, I saw a clip of some woman he had on talking about the masculine, feminine. I went to her page, and she's one of these 100% in her feminine. And it's all very sexualized, and that's what I see in him. It's this, again, it's almost like this anything goes. He doesn't have that integration of the feminine in his masculine. It's just this 100% masculine. And now they're in this throuple, and they think that, and everything, like God told him that he's like, he feels that he has this connection to spirit, where God actually told him to go online and find this woman. And then it's just wild. Anyway, but that's in a nutshell. So please share your thoughts on that.
Thank you. So just straight away, so Aubrey Marcus, personality pattern wise, he's phallic narcissistic. And how that shows up is it's a subset of the rigid, where they're all about displays of arrogance, displays of power. Conor McGregor's got this same archetype, the same survival pattern as well. But what shows up here is they avoid vulnerability. They can perform vulnerability. They know what to say to get people on board, to prove who they need to be, right?
Yeah.
And there can be a real oversimplification of complex topics, because to understand the topic completely, they'd need to confront the parts of themselves that they like to keep hidden. So in that, the polarity game and this therapist just green lighting everything is that a therapist that doesn't understand the mechanics of the 5 personality patterns can't see through the bullshit already, because they're walking into it, listening to the person and assuming that what they're listening to is truth. So to double down on this, when you say something's come from God, if it hasn't come from you, then it's just another excuse.
Yeah.
Okay. And this is the leaving pattern can do this. Okay. And we see this in the spiritual world, like an angel told me, a Palladian told me, my whatever it is that told me. I was talking to a tree. Well, actually, trees actually do carry some wisdom, but you're outsourcing your wisdom to something that's not you.
Yeah.
And you can, by that, you can also avoid the responsibility of your own fucking choice.
Yeah.
It's like, Aubrey, bro, like, do you want kids? Like, do you want to raise a healthy family unit? Because if you want to just fuck around and find out, by all means, keep up with that pattern. But I guarantee you that once you start having kids, all that polarity bullshit just falls apart. Because it's no longer just 2 people performing. You now have a third being in there, which iterates and changes the entire family, the constellation within the unit. So you can't fake that polarity shit anymore. For example, if your wife, I made a post about this a while ago, because my wife is, what is it? It's almost 30 days since she gave birth to our number 2.
Oh, that's right. It's so
she's upstairs.
new, yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. Thank you. So she's upstairs right now. It's a home birth. She wanted a home birth. She did it. She was so excited, but she's still in that recuperation, like the first 40 days, right? So right now she's got huge hormonal shifts. Like she's got a cold sore and she hates having cold sores. She's in bed, runny nose and coughing, not getting good sleep. But in that, like I'm the householder. So I've got a younger son who's 2.5. Like I'm usually carrying Tommy, my number 2. So I'm not in the harness right now, but normally I'm carrying number 2. Like I'm running broth up to her, getting her food, doing all that kind of stuff. Like I'm in feminine, right? I'm in feminine, right? And there's moments when I need to jump on calls like this, like, cool, be more masculine. Like, I got to speak. This is my call. This is my calling. This is what I'm in tune to, right? And it's pivoting all the time. And you can't pivot without presence. You can't fake presence. Presence is either you are it or you're in overwhelm. Either you are present or you're triggered and you're in a survival pattern, or you're running some kind of program, right? But presence is the core of all of this. And with Aubrey Marcus, what I hear is he's not present. He's not a man who's genuinely present. He lives in his fucking head, right? So people that love listening to people who are in their head love people like Aubrey Marcus. They love all these solutions. They love to tell me, feed me all this intellectual stuff so I can get more insights, right? But it's not real. It's not helpful. It's not grounded in relational mechanics. It's not grounded in the dynamic of a relationship. So you can feel that you're getting all this wisdom and insight, but you just get stuck in this awareness insight loop instead of actually embodying your truth of who you really are and how you show up in the world.
Yeah.
When you mentioned that about children, it's so true.
Well, sorry, just to mention, he also did say in that interview that when they were visiting Egypt, that he feels that ISIS came to him and told him that he has to have children with both the women.
Yeah, so it's going to get even more complex.
I know, it's ridiculous.
I don't think he's ready for that. I think that's going to be,
yeah.
Because when you get to that point, if you're not grounded, you're not present, and then you have children with two women, you know, that's I could just imagine the mess. I mean, it's going to take a lot of grounding, a lot of presence to hold something like that together. Because that could happen. Like, you could be a sheik or something, or someone with wealth, and there's a famine, and no women have husbands, and so you have to marry 5-6 women. Like, theoretically, back in the day, I think that's kind of how it worked. Not fully. Sometimes I think the sheiks just wanted a lot of wives, but it was a practical solution for some time periods. But nowadays, it's like, I don't imagine very many men have that level of groundedness and awareness and just commitment to doing whatever it takes so that the tribe survives that they had back then.
Yeah, and you hit the nail on the head, John, with everything in the conversation was so intellectualized, but in this spiritual way, like spiritualized. And it was funny too, because that's us listening to it. You can see straight through the bullshit. Like, when you actually know the reality of, what they're talking about, you see through the bullshit. And the amount of times in that conversation that I think it was more the women saying, and it feels like truth in my body. I know that this is true because it feels like truth in my body. I was like, they are the most unembodied people and unintegrated people, because if that feels like truth in your body, that's not actual truth. That's not like capital T truth.
Yeah.
And
and you can see the wounding, like
trauma, right?
Yeah,
right.
exactly.
Well, exactly. That's what I was saying. I was like saying out loud, and I was like, Aubrey, it's okay. Like, you're a traumatized guy. Like, you have some wounds. Just be with that. Just see that, and just explore that more. Don't cover it over and like, oh, ISIS told me this, and that brings me to another thing about it, because like, well, Alexa said, he's like the total masculine. I see it the opposite. I see him as being very feminine. Or at least the facade, because that's very appealing to these women who are probably also fitting some form of narcissist thing. And they like to see that, I don't know, themselves reflected in the other. I don't know. But I saw that it's just been a fascinating thing. And I want to get your opinion on this. So in the military, I was in the Army. I did special operations training, Army side, like where they do with the Green Berets and all that training. And I was in that course, and I saw some very interesting personality types. And the ones who I felt were fronting the most had the most aggressive outbursts and rage. And, every turn of the hat, like your ruck's over your head and you're just standing there forever. And like, they're just punishing. And, which is like, it'll make you tough. Like, it's, I'm grateful for all of it. But what I noticed was, I was like, it's like they're the most, like, the rage is like the feminine rage. But in that context, everyone assumes it's just because he's super masculine. Like, the more rageful you are, the more of a fucking badass you are. And some guys see through it. Some guys, try to embody that because they think they're going to follow that same path. But what do you think about that, where there's just this big tough guy, the motorcycle biker guy, he'll just shoot you if you look at him wrong, or the big oil field guy who wants to punch you if you say something that disagrees with them. What do you think about that? And what I said about that being actually just like repressed feminine, just boiling to the surface.
Yeah, I love where you've gone with this, and you do know. So just straight up, Isaac, the aggressive pattern is attuned because you're very grounded. The aggressive pattern is attuned to bullshit. They can pick it up, like smell it as the words come out of the mouth, right? But what I hear is that these men just really want to be loved. Okay, so it's this feminine rage that they're not being loved. Just love me, right? But what happens in particular with the aggressive pattern is like, I'll get love if I have power over you and control my needs. So example, in the military, what I'm hearing is someone else's disobedience is you're not filling that person's needs because they need you to be obedient, right?
Yeah.
So, or follow the order or else, right? But at a deeper level, they just want to be loved, and the respect that they receive, the love that they receive through the respect, is just through obedience. Same thing with the biker. The biker just really wants to be loved for who he is. So what happens is there tends to be a rebellion at some point in their life. I'm going to go against everything, thinking that that's their true self, but it's not. Rebellion is not a form of true self. It's just a rebellion against what you weren't allowed to do as a kid. All right. So they're still looking for someone just to love them for who they really are at that deep, deep fundamental level. And you can embody that energy in that person. You can embody it in yourself. Sorry, you can embody it in yourself by just looking at a person and going, hey, I can see your body just really wants to be loved for who you are. And you spent a lifetime on guard, looking out for people who are going to betray you or pull the rug out from underneath you. That's a horrible way to live. That's a horrible way to live. Even with there's honor amongst thieves or no honor amongst thieves. Like even within that community, there's still risk of betrayal. So who do you trust? So everybody's looking for like an exit plan or a way to betray or keep like some blackmail or something. Like how can you live that way? Like that's a rigidified body, just like just flicking off years of their life for how rigid they are and how they're looking over their shoulder that they are. That's a horrible way to live. So in that compassion that can be found, and that's a horrible way to live, you can look at someone who's like that and be like, hey, you can just talk to them upfront and honest with the love in your voice and the authority, which doesn't upset or activate or trigger their survival pattern to try and want to dominate you. Because for an aggressive pattern person who is confronted with someone who's trying to meet their aggression, it's a fight to the death. It's I'm going to dominate you now. You've activated this thing in me, and it doesn't stop until it's done. Right? So, yeah, that's what I got.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like explaining things the way that you do, like just what you said then, you can see why people kill each other. Like it's wild. I wanted to ask you, John, so having this knowledge and working with it in the way that you do, how do you sort of impart that in raising your children? Because obviously we all know, like, you know, we always say it, like big part of us doing our work is like, we don't want to pass on our traumas to our children, but they got like, you can't go through life unscathed, right? And it's, you know, capital T trauma, little traumas, it doesn't matter. We're all going to experience them. But obviously now I think this generation, like a lot of us that are having children, having this knowledge, we can go into raising children just in a very different way because our parents didn't know, and then, you know, the generations previous. So yeah, how do you kind of go about raising your kids having this knowledge, but also not being too overprotective and like wrapping them up in cotton wool, so to speak?
Oh, such a great question. Because when I first had Luca, our number one, I could feel that part of me that's like, oh, I can't traumatize him, I can't yell at him, you know, can't do this, can't do that, you know, can't get rough with him. But then as I've stepped into this, look, let go of trying to control and assume that trauma is inherently bad. Right. So how I am will naturally impact Luca, and I can see it already. Like I can see it, even how he was birthed. Like, so he was emergency C-section in a hospital, sterile hospital. Cassie distressed. Like Cassie didn't have skin to skin time with him. I was the first one that had skin to skin time with him. He spent time in a heating incubator. Just thinking about it makes me rage at the hospital system. But in that, like, just in that whole process, he's got his default is leaving pattern right now. Like I can see it in him, how he subtly just stares off into the distance, how he self-soothes, just all of his behavior just has leaving pattern. And for me, I'm like, great. So when I'm around him, I'm just bringing him more into his body. Like I'm making him focus on nature, making sure he's running barefoot outside, you know, touching trees, being curious about the world, making sure that he feels welcome here, which is the leaving pattern's main injury. They don't feel welcome here on Earth. So once I see that, you feel welcome here. And he does with family members. Like he's out with his grandparents this morning. So just when I see the survival pattern kick in, I just am with him in presence. That's what I do. And I'm still myself. Like I will yell at him. I will grab him by the arm if he's trying to like poke his brother or do something that's dangerous. Like I'm not going to, gentle parenting. oh, don't touch that hot pan by the stove. It's like, no, when he was like 1.5, he was at the stove cooking with me, boiling water. Like his first
Yeah.
injury was he put his chin on a hot pan. I said, that's hot, Luca, isn't it? I said, yeah, it's hot. Burst into tears, present with him. He's fine, he had the scar on his chin for a couple of weeks and it's gone. But I think Jordan Peterson calls it conscious neglect, where you don't bubble wrap your kids because they just become this neutered, false self, and they're afraid to step out in the world. Like Luke is the most confident little kid. He's at 2.5. He'll just wander off, like he's go and do his own thing. He'll walk up to people who are 2 or 3 times his age, like, hey, how you doing? Like he loves the council workers where we go, like, hey man, like, what are you doing? Like just walks up to them, what are you doing? Like he's not around my legs, he's not doing that, right? So in that, there's my responsibility is to protect him from danger. So when he's off by himself, like a classic example of this was we've been paid for him to go to soccer training. He doesn't like going to soccer training, but there's a park nearby. So he wandered off to this park. It was maybe like 200 meters away. And I'm watching him go, and he stood by this swing set. He loves playing on the swings. And he was yelling out, Dad, Dad, Dad. But I was like 200 meters away at where the soccer was. And I was just watching him because I wasn't going to indulge in him wanting me to go over there and do this thing. Right? So he stood there for good 10 minutes just screaming out my name. All of a sudden, I could see the other parents in the area. Then another dad came over and just picked him up and put him on the swing and just started pushing him for 20 minutes. This guy pushed my son for 20 minutes. And it was completely safe for me. All right. And I just knew that that's okay. Like I can scan. He's not a threat. He's got his kid there. Like it wasn't even because he had his kid there. I could just see, cool, he's good. He's all right. I don't need to try and intervene or be like, or be embarrassed that my kids walked 200 meters away from me. And because he looked around to see if he could see where like a parent was, he didn't lock eyes with me at once. At no point did he see that I was his parent. So, but I was watching and it was cool. Like, it was fine. Like, there's no need to call in the cops or do anything else or run over there and say, hey, did you touch my son? And it's like, cool, man. And Luca had an amazing experience, right? Like some other random stranger coming up, pushing him on a swing. Like, that's love. Like, that's compassion. That's community, right? That's where I'm at. Like, what I know and how it influences how I show up in the world is just like, I can check what's going on at a very deep level and just let life be life. Like, I'm not afraid of death. Like, for example, with Cassie in the most recent birth, she fainted 7 times after she gave birth to Tommy. Right. And so after the child is born, normally you try and birth the placenta like straight after, right? So after after Tommy came out, we moved to the couch. Very messy process. So blood goes a long way. It looks like it goes a long way. So on the couch, she's on the couch. She got there. She was feeling faint. And then we're trying to get the placenta out. And we tried a couple of times, but every single time she'd sit upright, she'd faint. And I'm like, okay, cool. This is. I tagged it. And I was like, cool, how many more times are we going to do this? So we went a few more times. I could see that this was just we're beating something that was just completely nonsensical. Why are we trying to give birth to this placenta? It's not working. Her body does not want to do it right now. So what we did is we just cut the umbilical cord off. The umbilical cord had gone white. It'd done its job. I took Tommy. Cassie laid on the couch because she needed a reset. Like her body, she'd just been in labor for like 12 plus hours. She was done. So giving birth to the placenta before it was ready would have been ludicrous. And we bought all these tinctures to try and get the placenta out and all that kind of stuff. She took it once or twice. And then the third time she went to take it, I'm not taking it anymore. It's just being able to listen to the body, like, no, I'm not taking that anymore. I'm not trying to push this or rush this. So then in the fainting process, I could see that the doula was getting nervous, that we need to get the placenta out. So I just took control. It's like, great. Not getting the placenta out. Cassie needs to reset. I'm going to take Tommy upstairs. Cassie just needs to lie here. Yell out if you need me, Cass. It's good, right? She had all the supplies that she needed downstairs. And in that process, of like knowing when to pivot into presence and taking control, whatever is done, you just do it because you just know, you just feel. All of your common senses are online. You know how to negotiate with your team because you're attuned to everyone in the same. You're all sharing the same breath together. But in that doubling down on the work, is that just let go of control. And then with death, it's like, cool, I could lose Cassie and Tommy in this entire thing. I just got to let go of control. So when you let go of control of death, you enjoy life more because life becomes so much more precious and it's respected for the gift that it is. And you're not hyper vigilant of what's going to happen. What's going to happen? I'm afraid to die, because death is just treated as a transition into another state. It's not something that you need to delay or see life is better than death. It's just part of the whole thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the birthing process. I was listening to a podcast where they were talking about this just yesterday, and the way it's become so medicalized and it's so unnatural, all of these things that they do, and even just being like the hospital and the sterile environment. And what they were talking about on this podcast yesterday is that actually, and I've had a lot of things actually popping up just even on my Instagram feed and stuff like babies being born feet first, breech. And they say that it's not normal. And someone had posted a video of someone giving birth with the baby born feet first, and it was absolutely fine. And yeah, so this woman was talking about how we have to just listen to our own bodies. It's whatever is normal for us. The medical system don't say it's normal according to their set rules, but babies being born feet first, the placenta not coming out, like whatever it is. And like you said, you just learn to pivot. And I think that's what for me, what I see in other women is the missing piece is the trust, where they don't trust themselves and they don't trust their own bodies and they don't know how to listen to their own bodies.
Yeah, I'd love to talk more to that, because our first birth was through the medical industrial complex, birthing industrial complex. And we got accepted into Wollongong's midwifery program. So it was supposed to be really good, right? And they offered us a home birth. But as we progressed, we could hear that they didn't actually want to do the home birth because it was more work for them and more resources were required. And then we're like, this is actually a con. This is a long con, right? And what shows up in the outsourcing of your own truth, it starts in the very beginning when you go to your GP and they book you in for scans, right? So the first scan is your first giving away your own authority, right? So you start relying on machines to tell you what's going on with the baby, right? Yeah. Then you're going for your next checkup, this thing, that thing. And in all of this, you've really got to trust yourself. And like for Cassie, she didn't want to get any scans. She didn't want to fucking know, right? But then about halfway in, she's like, God, am I carrying twins? Because I want to know if I'm carrying twins right now, because I've got to prepare. Like if we're having two right now. So at some point, we've got a really great local GP, much more integrated, holistic, like acupuncture, the whole shebang bang.
Oh, that's great.
And he booked us in, booked Cassie in for a scan. Said, yeah, just go. And we went there. We had an amazing radiologist who's also much more in the holistic view of childbirth. And we found out that there was no twins, and that's it. That's it, done. No more medical intervention. We didn't need any more. But Cassie needed, and she trusted herself. That's what she needed. So if you can find that balance between the two, I think it's really, really useful, because at some point there can be this hard line, nah, medical is fucked. Keep it away from me. I'm going to do all natural, just all out. Sure, if that's your truth, then that's your truth. But I find there's a middle way in whatever you're doing. And for me, like I was willing to do a home birth with Luca, but Cassie wasn't in that state to do that at that point in time. She needed to go through what she needed to go through, right? And it was perfect. It's always perfect, I find. It's always perfect. But then for me, seeing both sides of the fence, now I have wisdom around it, and I can speak to it in a way that cascade of intervention starts early. Yeah. And the more a woman in particular can surround herself with other women who learn how to trust their bodies, who know that whole birthing process. There's a great podcast called on the Free Birth Society.
Oh, yep.
Really
I
good.
know the one.
Talk about examples. Yeah, right. But breech birth it's a variation of normal. Right? No one, you don't need to panic. Even in a scan, the fluid depth is different per hospital. So
Yeah, right.
everyone's got their own little metrics. And for Cassie, when Luca went through it at the emergency C, we went in there because that's what we were told to do. So because we were told to do it and we didn't have our own locus of control, we just listened, right? See it quite clearly that everybody's about the risks and the statistics, not about what's really going on right now. We had a baby monitor on Luca while Cassie was she was on a ball in the shower in the hospital. This midwife kept coming over and putting the heart rate monitor on where Luca was, and then she goes, "Oh, the heart rate's dropping. Oh, I'm concerned. I'm going to call a doctor in." That's fucking normal. The heart rate drops when the baby's descending, right? And if a woman doesn't know that, you'll outsource your intelligence to this midwife who has a device, and we learn to trust devices from a very, very early age, right?
Yeah.
So you just start outsourcing more and more and more, and then before you know it, you've had your emergency C, you're drugged up, you're disconnected from your child, and there incurs all the personality pattern type injuries, like the leaving pattern in particular, and the merging pattern. Because merging is about not being able to lovingly be held by a mother. So you're continuously looking outside of yourself to fill yourself because you didn't get that constant loving bond with your mother. This shows up in somewhere else in your adulthood, usually your relationships.
Yeah. Yeah, it's such a mess, man. The whole medical stuff. But I kind of get it because I've been through, I did the medical training, pretty in-depth stuff, trauma medicine. But to someone like me, everything like my daughter getting the flu or getting a fever one time, and her temperature was like 105 or something in Fahrenheit. And in our training, that's like extremely risky. That's like a risk of brain damage. And so I jumped to it. I put her in the bath. This was years ago. And she was like maybe 11, 12 years old. And I put her in an ice bath and I put like ice on her head. It's like her hair is literally freezing and she's turning blue and her temperature is still like 104.
Oh my God.
And you want it down to like, 98.6 is ideal. 100 is 99, 100 is a fever. 101 is a mid-grade fever. 105 is like, they tell you alarm bells. And then years later, I read a book and they're like, yeah, like if your body's naturally doing a fever, you can go 105, 106. I don't know what the upper limit is, but it's like, you're not going to get brain damage when your body's doing its own fever. The only reason that would be brain damage is if you're in like 110 degree heat and you get like sunstroke. And then that's an outside source of temperature.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd love to do more deep dives in the future with medicine, all the stuff that I've learned, because we have this joke about the medical stuff where I'm just like, I'm there with all my trauma stuff and I'm doing all the interventions that, for somebody that just like stubbed their toe. I'm like, yep, rectal check, good. His blood pressure's all right. I started an IV. He's like, he just stubbed his toe. I was like, yeah, but we're covered.
Well, that's what the medical system does though. And I love that you said that, John, because like we're all for natural medicine and alternatives, and that is what we use 99% of the time. But if I break my arm or if I'm in a car accident and like you're going to the hospital, like there is a time and a place. And especially in birthing, like if there are emergency situations, I know that happened with Joel's wife, Alyssa, with their first one. I think they prepared a home birth, but they had to go to the hospital, and it's fine, because then I feel like that's what then ends up causing more damage, or can cause more damage, is then in the aftermath, I went to the hospital, and the guilt and the shame and all these things. And then you kind of project that onto the whole situation. And it's like, just do what you got to do. There's nothing, like, I'm a big believer now, and mind you, this is coming from someone who used to, I don't know. I don't think catastrophize is the right word, but I was very pessimistic, very negative. I was very depressed for a lot of my life. And I used to think that, like, however I felt at that time, I just always thought that that's always what it was, how it was going to be. And now I'm like, there is nothing that can't be healed from. Like, even big, like what we've done to the earth, people is like, oh, climate change and the pollution or whatever. It's like nothing. There's nothing that is done that can't be healed. And that goes for us first and foremost.
Yeah, totally agree. And doubling back to the intervention piece, like if if you break your arm or you break your leg or you amputate a toe, you're not going to reach for that 30C of arnica. That's for sure. You're going to be straight into the hospital, right?
Yeah.
Unless you're me, and then you're just doing the sutures right there in the living room. Yeah.
Hey, if you got it, you got it. Use it, man. Like if you got it, do it.
Yeah. Well, I've absolutely loved this conversation, John. I knew I would, and I wasn't sure where we were going to go with it, but I knew it was going to be great, and I've absolutely loved it. And I can totally see how you did end up like focusing more in on relationship work, because like that's where kind of Isaac and I are now. Where like that's where the real work is. Like your partner is always going to be your biggest mirror, and you really can have the most profound healing in that container. So how can people work with you if they're interested?
Yeah, great. So you can work with me. Just find me on the socials. But I've got a group offering starting on the 28th of July called The Space Between. That's where someone who's just got out of a relationship, they might be a bit shell-shocked from the last one. They don't want a new one, but they're trying to grieve and untangle or disintegrate the psychic glue between the partnership and just work it out. Then I've got Aligned Attraction, which is a 16-week mentorship, which is just about aligning your love map. So what I've found with the 5 personality patterns is you're attracted to a certain type of person. And if you run by an outdated love map, you keep on attracting the same person with a different face. Right? So I help you update your love map. You walk away with a love map that you can use to find someone and attract someone in. So you stop looping in this pattern of exhausting relationships. And then my last offering is a 12-monther. Right now I'm combining all 3 into the one, if someone's keen to do all 3 in the one. But my 12-month offering is more for the kind of person who just wants to align their whole life. Like I get singles who have coming out of the corporate world and they want to work out what's going on. They've dabbled in a bit of Tony Robbins. They've dabbled in a bit of plant medicine. They've dabbled in a bit of landmark, shadow work, IFS, family constellations, but they can't seem to get their life in order. So it's more focused on a life, more of a life trajectory, getting aligned with who you really are and how you want to show up in the world. But just reach out to me. Find me on the socials. Just start a conversation. Everything is relational. I'll find the correct thing for you. And you might not be ready to work with me, and I can refer you to other resources. And you might be ready to work with me, and then we can have that conversation.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Thanks for coming on the show. It's been awesome talking to you. Got some great insights, a lot of fun stuff, a lot of laughs, and really deep thoughts. This is an episode that we really went deep. So I encourage people to probably listen to it a couple times, take some notes, go look up some of the resources that John mentioned. And if you're open to it, if you're interested, if you're ready for that next big step, go check out his offerings. So thank you, John, for stepping up and being who you are and being a amazing light for the world. And we look forward to seeing and talking to you more in the future.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'd love that. Thank you both. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for the invitation. It's just the curiosity in the questions. Like I really appreciate good questions. Like it just takes me to places. So I really appreciate you both. Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to the Natural AF podcast, where we explore holistic healing modalities, mindsets, and methods that reconnect us to nature and our natural state of being.
If something resonated, share this episode and see the show notes for our guest links, as well as all of our discount codes for our aligned affiliates and natural art form, where we handcraft a range of organic, natural remedies to help support your body's natural healing abilities and help support the show.
If you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, please take a few seconds to leave us a rating and review. And if you're watching on Rumble or YouTube, hit the like button and drop us a comment, and be sure to subscribe to our channel for the latest updates.
We're not here to conform. We're here to remember what's real. So step into your power, be curious, and be natural AF.